I'm Ted Corbin, and I'm a Stoneleigh Fellow. I trained in emergency medicine in Washington, D.C. at Howard University Hospital. I saw a lot of young men of color that were victims of interpersonal violence. That was my first exposure to realizing that, wow, as a healthcare provider, you can take care of their physical wounds, but there's not much else done for them in terms of their emotional wounds that go along with that physical wound. If someone comes in that's been shot, 5 years later, there's an over 40% chance that they'll be shot again. 20% of that population will be dead. Stress after stress after stress really does have an impact on the body and the biology. And after prolonged exposure to those stresses, it does in fact have an influence on the development of chronic disease. We really believe that trauma has an influence on the young people that we see. Some of those symptoms are symptoms like being numb. And some people perceive that, particularly healthcare providers, nurses, and doctors, perceive that as lacking remorse. And when they see that as lacking remorse, they don't feel like they can help the young person, when in fact these are symptoms of post-traumatic stress. So it's really changing the way people see the young people that have been victims of interpersonal violence. Realizing that there is something that can be done and trying to put that in motion was what inspired me to do something. A lot of people say, why the emergency department? And why don't you start earlier? Why don't you start in school? We're identifying kids that are already at risk when they come into the emergency department. And we feel that we can, in fact, have an impact. I mean, it really is having a caring adult that works with them to identify resources, connect them with resources, but at the same time holding them accountable to do some things for themselves as well. There's an opportunity to either retaliate or change. And we, in fact, think that we can help them choose change over retaliation. The project that Stoneleigh is supporting is research on healing hurt people. We're looking to test if healing hurt people works. And we're doing that by looking at proximal measures of post-traumatic stress, depression, and adverse childhood experiences. It is extremely important to demonstrate the evidence behind any of the programs so that in the long run, these services will be reimbursable and sustainable, because the majority of them are funded through foundations or local government. We want to get it out there to show the evidence that having hospital-based intervention programs does in fact make a difference in the lives of the young people that we work with. Another part of the work that I'm trying to develop is that of injury review panel. Currently in the city of Philadelphia, there is something called the Youth Fatality Review Team. Someone from the Department of Human Services, someone from some of the community-based organizations, someone from the police department, the district attorney's office, Philadelphia School District. These are people that are doing things in those various organizations. They come together in a room, and the medical examiner talks about a young person that's been killed. However, we're talking about dead kids at that point. How about moving it back and talk about injured kids so that we can be more proactive than reactive? It's huge because it's really difficult in trying to find someone who can actually do something in these different systems. We really need a way to get these different systems to talk to one another. One story sticks out in my head of a young man who described his previous trauma, described his trauma of being shot, and then talks about how he's going to protect himself if he gets shot, how he's going to protect his head, how he's going to protect his heart. How do you think about protecting yourself from being shot while you're in school, supposedly paying attention to the lesson? I don't know, I couldn't do it. Part of the work that we're doing is really addressing that chronic adversity, that chronic stress, dealing with issues of safety, emotional management, loss, and future. We feel that if we can get in there and take care of the people that have non-fatal injuries, that we can in fact change their trajectory. It's work to really care for an individual beyond the physical wounds. We can do that, we do that well. But in order to have huge influence on changing the health outcomes of the young people that we take care of, you have to dig a little deeper.